What's going on, chat? So today we're going to be reviewing some gameplay footage from Thursday night fights from earlier today, September 18, 2025. We played a 4-round event. It was up to 5 rounds, but we only went to undefeated. It was 21 players tonight and hosted by the Thursday night fights team. Shout out to, as I see here, David Navidad is tuned in. Shout out to him and the Thursday night fights team for hosting. I've been playing these for weeks and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of interesting games. A lot of good players from all different walks of life show up. So shout out to them if you guys want to participate in these weekly events. They are up to 5 rounds, and the Discord server handles a lot of the logistics. So I'm going to leave a link to that in the description for anyone who wants to join in with us. Today, we're going to be reviewing the gameplay footage that was in the finals. It was me versus Big Ben. Big Ben is on Misfortune. I am on Aurora Misfortune. I'm on Classic Yi. So Yi has a few different versions, and this one's the older, lower to the ground Master Yi build. I'm gonna make a lot more content around Master Yi and the different versions of Master Yi. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and leave a subscription. Go ahead and subscribe, or just comments. Or if you don't want to do any of that, go ahead and just, if you see it, you see it. I'm doing my best to get the word around, but yeah, a lot more deep dive for that incoming at a later time. But today we're just going to be focusing on this game in particular and this matchup. So this matchup is, as I said earlier, Classic Yi versus MF Aurora, and we're going to go ahead and get started right here. So opponent reveals Misfortune here as their chosen champion and Misfortune legend, obviously. Game 1, we're going to go ahead and choose the Dreaming Tree, as that is the general purpose Game 1 battlefield for Master Yi here. We've decided that the opponent will have the decision for who goes first here. We're sending back here a white flame. Okay, I'm going to pause right here real quick. We're sending back a white flame to the bottom of the deck, and we are keeping an on guard and a stopwatch. I think in retrospect, I should have sent back a stopwatch because because if we didn't draw this Poro off top, there could have been a lot of problems with this game. Yeah, the stopwatch is probably greedy, but we're gonna go ahead and proceed with the review. So I think that is the one of the first changes. Opponent uses their decision to go first, and they are going first. Excuse me. They're playing. They have their Obelisk of Power, and they start with 3 runes here. They're playing a Mobilize and passing the turn, so they're going to go up to 4 runes, and next turn 6 runes. Pretty good start by opponent. So we are going second, I think. Okay, so back to that prior discussion. We knew that we were going second, so I think that's why we were happy enough with the Kiana. Because one thing you can do with Kiana here is Kiana and put an Hourglass down, and right after she conquers, so that's pretty good. But I think it was okay now that we know we did end up going second here. So we've drawn the Clockwork Keeper. Now we need to consider here whether we're going to play 2 units or play Kiana. So one of the considerations is, if we play Kiana now, we only have access to 5 runes next turn, and that puts a damper on our rune development, which I will be going over at a later time. Trying to hash out the fundamentals of Riftbound. And if you're interested in more deep dive fundamentals, go ahead and subscribe. But anyway, we're gonna proceed with this review. So if we play 2 units, we are able to go for a double conquer next turn, and double conquering against Aurora deck is very important here. So we're gonna opt for the Poro and the Clockwork Keeper, and no draw from the Clockwork Keeper because that'll disrupt our rune development here. if we do that. And frankly, we have an okay enough hand to just let it go. And we're glad we kept the on guard because we have that Dreaming Tree and we can maybe replenish our hand. So the opponent does a pretty simple turn here. They're at 6 runes here. They're gonna play a Catalyst and ramp up to 8. So we're gonna go ahead and move both units into their battlefields or into a battlefield, and opponent actually has a gust, so technically you're supposed to do this at once, one at a time, but we kind of just shortcutted through it. So the Clockwork Keeper will go on the Obelisk of Power and score us our first point, but we will not get our second point with the Poro. But we're gonna go ahead and play out our Poro and Kiana and pass the turn, and we'll be going to 7 next turn, which is relevant because we will have access to Master Yi. And opponent here plays Aurora, Dazzling Aurora, which is going to give us some problems. And oh boy, opponent chooses and rips a Mind Splitter off the top of their deck. Opponent will be deciding which card to take. I think the best card to take might be On Guard, because that's gonna go ahead and draw us a card later. Opponent opts to take the Zonia's Hourglass, probably because they have weak answers to Kiana and they don't want Kiana to come back, but there's a lot of stuff because we can also just play Yi2 Battlefield and put Hourglass. That would be something that the opponent would have trouble dealing with. So we're gonna just we're gonna go ahead and move Kiana to the Dreaming Tree, and we'll score a point there, and we're gonna go ahead and draw a card. We're choosing to draw a card mostly because a lot of our hand costs very low, so our chances of actually deploying our hand is pretty high in this situation, and we're able to just go ahead and get more cards and more ways to control the game state in our favor if possible. We might choose to channel a rune if we had a card like White Flame or Dead Bloom in the hand, but yeah, that's just a little point there to think about. So now we need to think about whether we want to keep this little guy, this Clockwork Keeper, onto that Obelisk. So the pros and cons, they can definitely Dead Bloom us, but we have a good out to Dead Bloom in the form of Primal Surge, and we also have On Guard to protect the Kiana from the same thing. But the problem is that the Kiana will not live through a Dead Bloom attack if we On Guard only. So if we play the Pookie and put a buff on the Kiana, it will live with an On Guard against the Dead Bloom. We can also move the Kiana back to the base, but I think moving the Kiana back to the base is tempo negative, and what I mean by that is the opponent will get control of the board and will start playing Aurora, and we'll start getting units off of Aurora and start placing units, placing more units onto the board, onto a battlefield, and we're gonna have trouble conquering that back because Yi is mostly best at holding, and they're not bad at conquering, but there are a lot of benefits to holding. So we're gonna go ahead and put the Pookie buff onto the Stalwart Poro, and that way they both defend for 6 without On Guard, right? So what that does is it threatens an On Guard, and now the Dead Bloom is safe, or we're safe from Dead Bloom on both battlefields with Primal Strength, and we're able to keep the Mind Splitter off of the battlefield, because if it turns out we are able to keep the Mind Splitter off a battlefield, they can't just throw a bunch of might onto a battlefield that we can't get rid of. Especially not with this hand. We're not getting rid of. We don't have the nuke yet, which we'll go over at a later time. Oh boy. Okay, so the opponent plays a second Aurora here. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, that could just be too much might. So the opponent has a possession, which will be super interesting later. But opponent is thinking about whether they want a Dead Bloom, and they're just putting the Dead Bloom in the base. They are not starting a showdown. And they are looking for their second unit here off of that second Aurora that they played this turn. They still have one rune up, so that may come to be relevant. Opponent plays a Volley Bear, the 12 cost Volley Bear to the hand. I'm taking a quick look at what's on the bottom just in case I need to know. So opponent has played one gust already, and there's 2 gusts showing there. So we can be certain that the opponent does not have a gust with that open rune. We will double score here, and double scoring is your best ticket to winning against an Aurora deck. If you can do it, you should do it. So the problems start to show up here because the opponent has a grand total of 25 might attacking, and we're actually just gonna go ahead and force the opponent to fight us on these points. We have a handful of ways to defend ourselves here, especially the Kiana. Then that's because we have Primal Might and On Guard. So opponent here plays Possession, targeting Kiana. And we also start calculating out exactly how much might the opponent has, 25 in the base. I'm thinking currently about On Guard, because if this On Guard might be useless. It very well may be useless if we can't run over it. We just might need to hard draw the nuke combo. Nuke combo is an accelerated white flame, essentially, that target itself for 16 might. There are 2 ways that can do that. One with first mate, and the other with confront. But yeah, so we're actually just gonna let the opponent take that here, and the opponent needed to pay 3 purple for possession and 1 for the Kiana's deflect cost. So there's that. Now opponent is considering where to go. We are at 5 points, so the opponent has a handful of options on how to go about this combat and how to go about this game. But they cannot take forever in the sense that we are at 5 points and the game will end at 8 if we can manage to hold. So yeah, that's what I mean by the opponent cannot take forever. So opponent is opening here with a Dead Bloom onto our Poro. This is where I start thinking if I was supposed to move everything there, but it's fine. It's a weird one. So opponent has no response here. We're gonna go ahead and move the Poro to 13 might here. Alright, we're waiting for a response from the opponent, but yeah, opponent has no response here. It will go to 13 might, and we'll be able to take out that Dead Bloom and successfully defend this battlefield this turn. The only problem is the opponent on the other side of the battlefield, and they will be getting 2 Aurora triggers and the Kiana trigger, which is going to probably just lose us the game. So here the opponent loses their Dread Bloom, but the opponent will be sending in their 3 remaining units: Volley Bear, Kiana, my Kiana, and their Mind Splitter over there. That will be 21 might, 21 might and 24 might if you include the shield 3 from Volley Bear. So opponent's first card from this Aurora is a Mind Splitter, and they will be taking our On Guard. And their second card here, we're going to be going through a lot of the deck. Opponent plays Confront in there. They're playing Soul Gorger. Interesting. And they'll be able to bring back here a Dead Bloom Predator after paying the power cost for that. Opponent is down to 5 runes, but one of the benefits of Aurora is that they don't care much about their runes. They don't care too much about their runes after. So yeah. So here we draw on a card, and it's a second first mate, and we're going to 6 points. Not looking good. The opponent has 20 might in base. And actually, yeah, this is when I scoop it up because I don't think there's a way out, because the biggest problem is that they're going to get another Aurora trigger here, and they're going to start using their ganking. I've calculated out, you know, let's go back to that real quick just to go ahead and explain the logic here. So one of the things the opponent has remaining is this MF here, and they will be at 7, right? So what's going to end up happening is they already have this 20 in the base. They're going to have a 25 with including Misfortune. Honestly, they don't even need the Misfortune. So what they can do is actually move the Mind Splitter back into the base here. So that'll put them at 27 might in just the base. And what they can do is accelerate the Misfortune for 6, and they'll move that Misfortune straight into here from their base, straight into the Dreaming Tree. And when they do that, it'll untap this Mind Splitter here. So that's why we're gonna get to 27, and there's no way that I can beat 27 on top of 2 Auroras. So yeah. Not only do I have to be 27, but that means there will be 10 plus 5 plus 3 on defense, right? Plus 3 shield, so that's 18. So there's no way I'm beating this. You know, even if we draw the nuke, I'll lose everything. I mean, so 25, they could even just throw 25 might onto this board, and even if we draw the nuke, we're at 16. And then we don't even have the runes for the nuke because, yeah, we just don't. Technically, we will next turn, but I don't know, man. I don't. It's, you know, things start to get bad. They're gonna get 8 to 9 more might, 10 more might. You know, depending on if they play the Drake or another Soul Gorger, and the trying to move onto that battlefield over there is also going to allow the opponent to draw cards. There's just so many problems with that situation, and you know, in a tournament setting, this is an untimed round, but in a tournament setting, in a larger tournament where there will be time in the rounds, you need to conserve your time, right? You got to think about what is useful, in the sense that, you know, the opponent's going to go through a whole turn. That's going to be a few minutes, and did that few minutes of your opponent thinking and you thinking, how much does that matter, and all that business. For those of you familiar with playing in competitive card games, time is a big factor, and knowing when to concede is definitely a factor. The win rate for that game for us is probably in the single-digit percentages. Especially one of the ways that we would win is if the opponent has run out of units, but I know that they had one more Dead Bloom in the deck. I would be shocked if they weren't playing that. And they had one more Mind Splitter. Like they definitely had, and I think they had one more Soul Gorger. They definitely had units to rip. There's no, you know, you could say it's worth a few minutes to acquire more information about the build, which we've acquired a lot already. We saw like maybe 15 cards off of that first Aurora, so that's just the way it goes. So here we are playing 2 Adaptatrons, 1 Sabotage, and we're looking at a challenge, but challenge could be useful for hitting a Mind Splitter in the back, in the base, or something in the base, hitting. If you're able to take out that first unit or 2, a lot of things can go in your favor, because that deck's Aurora decks slow down a lot if you can efficiently clear that and keep them off of battlefields. That's why Dead Bloom is so good, is because it helps them take back that lost tempo, especially against Master Yi. We're removing 1 Dead Bloom. I think 1 Dead Bloom is fine to have because they play Mind Splitter, but 2 Dead Bloom I think is a little much, so we've removed 2 charms. Oop. We've removed 2 charms so far. And I think we're just going to go ahead and remove 3 charms, because I don't think Charm is a weird one. I think Charm as a one-off is actually fine, because sometimes it comes in clutch and you just need like to change the position of one unit. But yeah, actually we're gonna go ahead and remove the 4th charm and just keep challenge. So we end up taking out the challenge and keeping the one-off charm, which makes total sense here. Tasty, I think, is still totally fine, since it defends for 8 and stops a Dead Bloom and stops a what's that called? The Mind Splitter. Primal Strengths are good because they're good for conquering and whatnot. Do we need the 3rd Dead Bloom? Do we need a 3rd On Guard? I think On Guard could be good. So we're taking out that 2nd On Guard. One reason to take out a copy of On Guard is because we will be going on the Grove of the God Willow, and that means we no longer have the Dreaming Tree to turn that into draw power. So our opening hand consists of Tasty, First Mate, Defy, and the First Mate, Defy, and Clockwork Keeper. There we go. So we're gonna get rid of the First Mate here because we will be going second. But we're going first. Why did I think we're going first? Opponent has us going first. Oh no, we lost. We're going first. Yeah, that's why. That's the only reason why we're on group, because we're going first. I don't know what's going on. So opponent here will be playing a stacked deck. Maybe they have a mobilize. That's one of the better parts of that deck. So here. So here we've got 2 options here, right? We can play out the Adaptatron and just let the opponent ramp, or we can hold up runes and stop the opponent from ramping. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the opponent does here. So we're going to move our Clockwork Keeper into the Grove of the God Willow, hoping to hold with it and draw cards. Opponent will play a Gust. So that way we don't get to hold that. We were thinking about Defy, but Defy is so bad. We need the Defy to stop their ramp. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to replay the same Clockwork and not draw. And we don't draw because we're preserving our rune development. But we will Defy here because we'd be at 2 runes. We'd be at 2 runes if we had drawn, and we don't need to draw any more cards here. We need to get more runes. So opponent is not able to hit 7. They would have been able to go to 7, and they would have been able to be at 9 and play Aurora. But we did not allow the opponent to do that. So, oh boy. So we try to move on to the Grove again. And yeah. So this is an interesting decision here. We're going to go ahead and Defy that Gust so our Clockwork Keeper can score the first point and get on the Grove of the God Willow. So the decision to do this is a little different because, you know, the first Defy, we had used it to stop a Catalyst. This time we will be using Defy to stop this Gust. We could have saved this second one for another copy of Ramp, but frankly, an additional Ramp is not going to help the opponent because, for example, if the opponent is going into 7 runes right now, and if they go to 9, if they play a Catalyst and they go to 9 runes, and then they'll be at 11 the following turn. That's not really important anymore. It's becoming important to get on this point. So we will actually just go ahead and Defy this right now. And we are trying to get draws out of it because they also, of note, they cannot Dead Bloom next turn. They will be at 7. And here we're going to go ahead and just fully develop we're going to develop our board playing an Adaptatron. So when that conquers, we will be able to take out an Aurora, but you know they are at 7 right now, so they do not have Aurora here. So we're gonna go ahead and see what the opponent has planned. One thing is they could accelerate that MF and get on that point, but they are choosing not to, presumably because they are going into 8 next turn, and they can use MF ability to float 1 rune and float 1 energy. And then untap that, so they can actually go to 9 runes next turn, even if they only have 8 with this MF in the base. But what we're gonna do is the opponent is opting not to accelerate because they would not be able to do that next turn. They would be really disrupting their own rune development. They would get stuck at 7 or 8 if you use the Aurora untap trick. But yeah, so they're gonna be going for 5. They're gonna be only spending 5 and 1 orange power to play an MF to base, and I think that makes sense instead of accelerating that out. So we're gonna go ahead and draw for turn and draw a white flame protector. So we're at 2 points now. Being able to hold is nice, and being able to take out that Aurora the moment that it comes down is something that we like to have access to here. But we do have 6 runes here, so we cannot upgrade this board into an eggplant or a Tasty Fey Folk. That's one of the play patterns for Tasty Fey Folk, is if you already have a battlefield, you just upgrade it to a Tasty. Yeah, so the considerations are, because the opponent can play the MF to a point, because they can play it to a battlefield and get the Aurora out, we want to consider the implications of that game action, right? So what I mean by that is, if the opponent plays the Aurora to the Grove, it will take our Clockwork Keeper out. But the biggest problem with playing the Aurora is that, let's say the opponent, let's get our pen here. Whoa. Okay, so let's say our opponent sends the Aurora, MF here, and then plays Aurora to base, right? If we keep this Clockwork Keeper on this point, the problem that we run into is that our Adaptatron will not be allowed to conquer because we can't beat anything, right? So what I mean by that is, if the MF goes to the Sigil and they play Aurora and they could get a volley, let's go ahead and get rid of that. So they play the Aurora and they play the MF here, and they're gonna get a volley bear, so that could be 13 might. They could get a Mind Splitter, that'll be 7 might. They could get Dead Blooms, that's 8 might. And any of these values, 12, make it so that White Flame and Adaptatron will be at 11 with White Flame. We simply can't beat that, right? We can't beat the minimum boundary here will be 12. 12 is minimum. And the worst case scenario for the opponent is actually Soul Gorger, which makes it 10, and there is no unit in the trash. That's the worst case scenario, but honestly, like every other possible situation is so punishing that it's not worth it even to look at the worst case scenario in that. So yeah, so the problem is how we can use this Adaptatron here to actually get rid of the Aurora the turn that it comes down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo that, and we will continue with the clip. Yeah, so that's exactly what happens. Because the Grove, the God Willow, is now empty, we will guarantee ourselves a place to send our Adaptatron if the opponent chooses to play an Aurora. So the crazy thing is that the opponent actually ends up just passing the turn, which is a little complicated, right? So this is when things get a little weird. We are ahead 2 points, but we're not forever ahead. The opponent has some issues here, just like us. But I think that we want to try and advance the game state a bit here. Yeah, so I do remember that we actually just end up sending the Tasty here into that point. That way a Dead Bloom just it can defend against the Dead Bloom, and we can have some sort of tempo onto the board. Super weird. Yeah, it's very arguable because we can also just go ahead and sneak a point in with a first mate, which might have been the correct play. We can just first mate something onto a board and and play a Kiana from the hand, or we could just start with a Clockwork Keeper and then see what we want to do. But the line that we take here is that we play a Tasty and we'll score a point here. So after that, we're gonna pass the turn to the opponent. So at least we're threatening some points here. So right here, I do remember this line. The opponent goes ahead and plays a possession to our Tasty, which is a bit annoying actually, but it's just how it goes. Opponent is opting not to play an Aurora out, which is good for us. Good for us, obviously. Opponents can untap that Tasty with that MF. So that's something to keep in mind. They could actually just take both battlefields here. But if they did, we have a White Flame on the back end of that. And it actually is a little bit in our interest to hit 11 runes this game because we have access to the nuke right in the hand here. A 16 might accelerated attacker. But opponent decides not to go in on any battlefield and passes the turn. Yeah, so one of the issues we have here is kind of just development, like board development and runes. We're a little short on runes, but what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna go ahead and play the Kiana out, play a first mate, and then ready it and put it onto the point. We draw a card here. There was a minor consideration for channeling, and that would have put us at 11. It might have actually just been correct to channel, but the problem is that we by using the first mate there, we wouldn't know that we're getting another first mate, right? So how would we know that we're supposed to develop there? We do hold up 2 runes at least to make it a little messy for our opponent here. So our opponent goes in with the Misfortune. And then the Misfortune, I'm telling the opponent here that the Misfortune ability triggers. So they're gonna go ahead and trigger it on the Tasty. They could have done it on a rune also and put them to 10, but I think at this point in the game it's pretty marginal whether they need runes. So we go ahead and Kiana defense for 6 and takes out that MF there. Opponent scores their first point of the game, and taking out the MF there is important. One, because that ability is really broken. It's really messed up ability. It's really good. And that another is that Tasty would have ramped the opponent. So opponent will play a Soul Gorger here, and they will get 1 unit out from their trash, and that is the Misfortune, the only unit that they have. And actually, yeah, see, this is what I mean. When they use Misfortune ability to ready, they ready their Tasty Fae Folk, and they use the Misfortune ability to give it ganking. So now they've scored 2 points in that turn, and that's one reason why MF ability is so good, is that ganking is a very, very strong ability here. So now we have access to 10 runes here. Oh, tabletop sim lag here. And that's my sideboard. We're gonna go ahead and fix that up a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and play the rune there. We're gonna recycle 2 runes, and we're gonna pump our first mate to 11 here. So that's exactly one above that battlefield there. So that battlefield contains 10 might, and we'll be winning by 1. And we will have 2 runes left to work with, so we will be able to have our Pookie. Opponent is going to play Bullet Time for 1. So that way our first mate will die. I'm not sure if the opponent was supposed to do this, but I think they just that would probably indicate that they don't have a really good way to take me off of that point, which is not necessarily true because they have the tasty with ganking. But yeah, no, it's problematic for sure. I understand, especially the biggest problem though is that they go down to 4 runes, which means their next turn is 6. Maybe they needed the 7th, but I can see if their hand is not doing too hot that they won't need that 7th. So we're gonna go ahead and put that pause here for a second. We're gonna go ahead and put that Clockwork Keeper to the Grove of the God Willow. So what this does is it entices the opponent to move the Tasty over to the Grove, in which we will be able to run that over. So this game is looking pretty good for us as we have a sizable material advantage on the board, and the opponent's rune development has a lot of glaring issues, being at 6 runes right now, while meanwhile the deck has a lot of very expensive cards. So here the opponent is conceding. They think that the material advantage is insurmountable. So they have decided to concede here. And we will be going to a game 3, which should be interesting. Their game 3 will be on Candlelit Sanctum. So it'll be it was a grinder. Spoiler alert, it was a real good game 3. Just a lot of back and forth. I think it was very both sides were making errors. I remember definitely making errors, and the opponent, Big Ben, was telling me that he also made some errors. We're gonna go ahead and review and find out how those, what those errors were and how we can improve from that, and how substantial to those errors were, I think, is also important. So opponent is revealing Aspirin's Climb in game 3, and I am playing a Candlelit Sanctum. The opponent has won. The opponent lost the last game, so they will have the decision. So something interesting to think about is I'm flickering this Defy because I'm not sure if I need it. I am going second, presumably. The opponent goes first. We're thinking about how much we need to stop a Catalyst here. Yeah, so I'm sending back a Clockwork Keeper. No, I think I end up keeping that. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I bought him a first mate here, which is the deck plays one of the mulligan things. Mulligan decision making points is that if you play 3 copies of a card, you can consider just easily mulliganing that. But so we go second here. Opponent has not made a play here, so our 2 decisions consist of: do I just play a first mate for better stats, or do we play a Clockwork Keeper now? And the problem with playing a Clockwork Keeper now is that we can't use it to draw later, but we will be able to hold up a Defy, which could prove advantageous for us, especially since the opponent went first and is going into their Catalyst turn. So we end up opting into playing this Clockwork Keeper, and that we just immediately have the Defy here, and we're gonna go ahead and use it. And the opponent will pass the turn to us. So now we will have a few options here. So opponent's going into 6 runes, so Dead Bloom is not a consideration, but a Misfortune would be a consideration. So So we will be getting our first point and triggering Candlelit Sanctum. We'll have a Primal Strength and Discipline. Primal Strength will be good if we can get on board quickly, and it is also good for stopping a Dead Bloom. Not so good against Mind Splitter, which is a bit relevant. So we're gonna get rid of this Discipline because we need more might, and we're gonna keep access to Primal Strength here. And the question is, do we need to sabotage? Do we need to play an Adaptatron here, pass the turn? Opponent goes to 6. 6 is not that crazy, but 6 will allow the opponent to miss fortune, but we will have what's it called? Primal strength coming along. We're actually just gonna choose to play this sabotage. So our two options are Aurora and Gust. So this is where a lot of things start to happen. What I was thinking is that we can take the Gust, because the Gust will be the only thing that the opponent can do next turn aside from playing Misfortune, right? That I think was a poor hypothesis, because Aurora is just so much more value, and if the opponent has to play out all of their units, the Gust means nothing, right? So I was thinking that the opponent won't get to play out enough of their units, and especially because they're at 4 here and they're going to 6 and they're going to 8. I think that my hypothesis was that their rune development was so behind what it should be to be able to play all of these cards that the Aurora is hardly going to be a factor, especially because I have Adaptatron. And in retrospect, I think it was a poor decision. Okay? I will say that now. You can say in the comments what you think about this hypothesis, how good the hypothesis was. If you have a different hypothesis, you can let us know. For now, we are taking the Gust, which I think was wrong, but here we are. So the opponent, we've also copy and pasted what the opponent had in hand, just to help us track a little more easily. The opponent will play a Misfortune and pass the turn, which leads to a lot of issues here, right? Because we'll get a point for holding. So now the opponent can play a Mind Splitter and rip the Primal Strength out of the hand and hit us really hard. That, I think we just need to accept as a possible reality. I think part of this game, some of the lines are a little poor. Like taking this Primal Strength could have easily been an error, because the problem was that we didn't sabotage first. Okay, so we can talk about that for a second. So I think it was a little important to really either commit to the Adaptatron before scoring. Because the Candlelit Sanctum improves in value if you know all of the remaining cards in your opponent's hand, right? That way we could have taken the Aurora and played around Gust. And by playing around Gust, what I mean by that is we can keep a Discipline in our hand so that we can just draw the next card anyway, and our units are unaffected by Gust. But we had done the sabotage before, right? Or after. So let's still check. Yep. So we sabotage after the fact, and that is a missequencing. That is a sequencing error. We either needed to, if we were gonna conquer this, then we should play the Adaptatron, right? We can consider that a sequencing error. But yeah, so we go ahead and draw this out here. So we're going to go ahead and move this Clockwork Keeper back to our base, score a point with the Stalwart Poro, and move the Poro back to the base and pass the turn. The biggest problem with this line is that it gives our opponent some time to set up. But the problem is that I had come to the conclusion that the opponent will always play Mind Splitter here, which is not necessarily the correct conclusion, because the opponent could possibly be apprehensive to further set back their rune development here. Because if they do nothing, they're able to play Aurora next turn, right? But that's only if they do nothing, because the rest of their hand is full of cards. Another option the opponent has is to actually just send in this MF. They can just they can float one here and send the MF in, and then ready it, and they'll go to 8, and they could have an MF with a Dead Bloom on it. which is not a bad line, honestly. It would be 13 and would lose to my board, but yeah, no, it could be, it's probably pretty bad. So opponent actually just plays a stack deck here. Opponent plays stack deck, gets 1. So the opponent will have these 2 runes available. They're gonna go to 9 next turn. Opponent plays a pack of what is it called? Pack of treasures? No. The thing that bounces it. I forgot what this is called. But basically, what this gear does is it bounces a unit or a gear back to the hand for free, or not for free. You need to exhaust it. But anyway, so the opponent has these runes available here. So now we're going to go ahead and take a point with the using the first mate and to the Candlelit Sanctum. These are both fairly bad cards for us. We need white flames, and we need white flames now. So first mate and Clockwork Keeper are not in that category. Clockwork Keeper will cost us energy. The bottom card is first mate, and the top card is Clockwork Keeper. Yes. So we're going to go ahead and send the Clockwork Keeper to the bottom and first mate to the top. I think the concept is to be able to ready something in a future timeline, which I'm not sure will be relevant, but we're going to go ahead and take a look. I think I'm trying to just get the game ended as quickly as possible, especially like seeing how my misplay was a little bad here. Opponent will play an Aurora in the base, and we are holding up 4 instead of playing Adaptatron here because we want to have Primal Might for a Dead Bloom, and yeah, Mind Splitter will just give us a lot of problems, but here we are. So yeah, so opponent plays an Aurora, and they're thinking about whether they want to attack in or buff anything. But opponent opts not to. They're playing Invert, Sabotage, Fight or Flight. What's that called? Gust. It's 2 Sabotages. I don't know if I like that. A Possession. What's that called? Catalyst of Aeons. And a Dead Bloom. So now the opponent has to decide whether or not the Dead Bloom is worth playing into open runes. And I believe the opponent does know we play Primal Strength. So they would be playing around Primal Strength. If we had played Adaptatron, these units would be at 5 plus 2, 7 with... it's 7 with Discipline. It's not enough. Opponent doesn't know that. So we will double score, and we'll go to 7 here, right? 7's a really good place to be against this deck. Opponent did not think the risk was worth it for that Dead Bloom, and rightly so, because we did have the answer. Problem here is this, because my hypothesis was to use this and this Adaptatron and this first mate so that I could ready the Adaptatron and send it in and get rid of this Aurora quickly. But like we were talking about in the second game, the way that you want to use Adaptatron is actually you create a play pattern where you need to keep a battlefield open right here, one of these battlefields open. So I think taking this was okay, taking the Candlelit Sanctum was okay, but I think that we're not supposed to take this and remain at 6 points, right? And the reason why we should have done that is because of this Adaptatron. Last turn, we went to 5, so we were at 4 points here. Yeah. If we did not take the Aspirant's Climb, we would be at 4 points going into 5 points, and then we conquered to 6. Yeah, okay, so we verified that if we had not taken this, we lose out on 1 point. So the biggest question is that point worth it? And I am looking at this situation, and I frankly don't think that point was worth it, because we can play 4 plus 3. We'll have our Adaptatron, immediately take out this Aurora, and that I think is more worth it than this point, because now they're going to get a second trigger, and at that point they would have paid 9 runes for about 16 in stats, give or take 16 in stats, right? That's ridiculous. So I I think we could just stay at 6. I think this was a major error. You could, let me know in the comments how good or bad you think it was. I think it was an error that we really need to not have made. Another consideration, though, is that if we did not do this, the opponent could play an MF here and deny us use of the Adaptatron. That also gets weird because the opponent doesn't know that we would have an Adaptatron and a first mate line. And I think this line is super weird to play around. So my conclusion is that we actually kept a card on top with Sanctum that we were not playing properly with, right? So because we're not taking this line, I think it's actually wrong. But if we wanted to take the line with Adaptatron, we need to not put this Poro here. And it'll give us the best chance of actually getting rid of that Aurora on site. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about that logic or any counterpoints, you can just let me know. But here we are. So now, as I'm watching, so the video coverage is covered up, but I am face palming. I'm face palming IRL. So we have a few options here. We could probably put a Dead Bloom onto a point right now because the opponent is at 13. We could play Dead Bloom and hold up non-guard. Not sure that's a high equity line here. I think we're supposed to just go back and develop everything, but we're gonna go ahead and see what we go for. We could also just put a Dead Bloom on a point as we discussed. We can leave the Dead Bloom on that Sanctum. Another thing is we could just play the Dead Bloom in the base. That way we can swing with it. I just don't know. I'm just not certain that we'll actually be able to get to play this. And this is why I cited out the other copy of the Dead Bloom, is because this Dead Bloom is okay in this matchup. It has its uses, but it also has a lot of issues. It's a really good body, but after a certain point, you will not find use out of the MF, or excuse me, out of the Dead Bloom, because they just have way too much might on the board. So here, we're actually gonna go ahead and send everything back. I think we just send everything back and develop. And so we have access to 9. We're actually just gonna go ahead and play Adaptatron to base and pass our turn. So what this does is we hold up my what's it called? We hold up the strength, the primal strength, and we think that we don't think the opponent has gust. So gust would be the craziest thing that they could do. Crazy as in the best way to get us off of a battlefield and prevent us from using primal strength. Opponent plays a Mind Splitter, which is what we were worried about for a bit, right? So they are probably just gonna take the primal strength because that's what they do with the Mind Splitter. The card's really good. Mind Splitter discards, not recycles. And the opponent moves their Dead Bloom to the Aspirant's Climb. And now the opponent has different options. So opponent uses Misfortune. On her first move, she'll use it to ready the Dead Bloom, and she will give the Dead Bloom ganking with the Legend, and that will go ahead and conquer the Candlelit Sanctum. So this line is super weird because we just wanted to give our opponent get our opponent on the board, but we don't see. That's the problem with keeping that first mate, right? We wanted the opponent to get onto the board so that we can Dead Bloom, but it's not working out the best for us. So opponent will also use 1 rune to stack deck here. One thing we have not seen from the opponent is Ride the Wind at all. So that's something to keep in mind. So the opponent's flipping an Aurora. We're paying attention to the cards that opponent flips. So those are a lot of useless cards. Pack of Wonders is what it's called. Treasure Trove, that combo. And they will be playing a Dead Bloom 2. The Aspirant's Climb here. Make it difficult for us to conquer that. Yes, so opponent plays the Dead Bloom to the Aspirant's Climb, and that puts 13 might on that board. Yep, so we will be having problems clearing that. 13 here. Excuse me. 13 and 8. Opponent has only one rune available, which means it's pretty finite. Mostly stack deck. They can play stack deck if we swing in, just to see how we want to interact with it. So this is a little weird here. We have access to 11, but not too many options. We're opting to take a Dead Bloom here, and because of the situation that we find ourselves in, we will be going to our 8th point, and we will also be able to use the Adaptatron to get rid of this Aurora, which will be very good for us if this works out. Yeah, we'll also have access to Yi in the following turn. Opponent's just taking a look at that. Because we could have used Yi and this Clockwork, but I don't think that's quite necessary at this point. And we do know the opponent does have a Dead Bloom in hand, right? So we can try and play around this if possible. We move the Adaptatron into the War Camp, and we take out the, we get our 8th point. So that means any points that we score from here on out, if it's the first point from conquering in that turn and we weren't holding, we will get a draw. So this one is interesting. We get a Defy and Confront. Defy is no longer useful to us, I'm pretty sure. Let's go ahead and verify that. Defy is not useful to us. And we have Confront. So this was an interesting decision here. The reason why I'm taking so long to think about this is because if we draw a White Flame, what ends up happening is that we can launch the White Flame at this for 16, and the opponent is bottlenecked currently into developing one at a time. So they could Pack of Wonders this over and over again, this Mind Splitter, but I doubt the opponent will do that because they'll start to fall behind on board. So the confront will give us an option to play a White Flame. We play this first mate to go ahead and put the Adaptatron back into the base. That way their Dead Bloom cannot just eat that for free. So that was I think that was fairly obvious, but I'm looking at it as my good draws from this point on are Primal and which we have one of, and a White Flame that we have 3 of, right? And or what's it called? And or pump spells would be good. Pump, right? Which we have 3 Discipline and 2 on guard left. I don't recall putting any of those at the bottom. Defy was a good bottom. We're not really playing around anything crazy except for Bullet Time. Bullet Time would be the best Defy target, but we also have 3 Defies in the deck. So we couldn't care less if we... Oh, no, we have 2 Defies in the deck, including that one, because we defied their first Catalyst here. So we had 2 Defies left in the deck, and now that we bottomed one, we have 1 left. So that reduces our chances to pretty low for drawing that one. But yeah, so the way I look at this is we have Primal Strength as a good draw. We have White Flame as a good draw. So because we're thinking about whether we put the Confront to the top or not. I thought about this for a second because we're going to 11, right? So if we 11, we can Confront and White Flame, but we cannot We can confront White Flame, but we can't play the Spooky. And you'll see tragically later that I don't play that turn very well. But, you know, we are here to learn. And it's a long journey, and we're here to perform as best as we can overall, you know, throughout our long journey of playing card games. So we opponent will hold, or we put the confront on top, hoping to draw our good cards essentially. And the next thing, or the next time we conquer, we will be scoring, or we will be drawing a card. But yeah, so this goes to 3 here. Opponent is thinking. So one thing they can do is use MF ability to gank. Opponent has 9 runes available. They can play another Aurora to the base. Whether that is good or not is another conversation. They do have two known cards, a Soul Gorger and a Dreadbloom. And we have traded with their Dreadbloom, so they can use this Soul Gorger to put a Dreadbloom onto a board, just as a pay 8 for 13 might, which kind of sounds good to me. The only problem is they're paying 4 runes, so they're currently at 9 runes. They would go down to 5, which sets their next turn to 7 hypothetically. Anyway, opponent chooses to send in their Mind Splitter to the Sanctum. They're gonna go ahead and get their 4th point here, and they trigger the Sanctum. Opponent has lots of runes available. Okay, they're just thinking about. Oh, they accidentally put it in their hand instead of top of deck. It's not it's not a stack deck. I think they were confused. It's a honest mistake there. So they go ahead and move this Mind Splitter here. An interesting line they could have taken was play this Pack of Wonders and then use the Pack of Wonders to put the Mind Splitter back in their hand and put it back down. That's kind of a very cheeky line. Opponent actually does go ahead with that line that we were discussing here. They will take the Dreadbloom out, and they'll have lots of might on this board. They'll have 20, and they'll have 13. 13 on left, and 20 on the right. So, yeah, this is where it gets mildly hype, but you guys will see. So one of the benefits of MF as the chosen champion, or the legend for Aurora, is that all of their units basically have a threat of ganking. So they'll always have access to move this Dreadbloom to the other side, right? So now we need to sleep in the bed that we laid in and we get access to this confront. And now we only know 1 card in the opponent's hand here. In base, we've got 9 might, so we need to consider our options here. So one of our options is to bring out Yi, and that'll put us at 16 might here. This will be interesting. We're going to go ahead and rip the confront here. And we actually draw the White Flame. I'm very excited in the video and the live face cam, but not showing. So our options include sending this White Flame, sending it as a nuke, 16, just straight there. One of the problems would be bullet time, right? No. Bullet time is not a problem. I mean, technically, bullet time is a problem, right? Because if the opponent bullet times, they'll bullet time for 3. And if they bullet time for 3, then they can just completely trade this whole area. And if they trade that whole area, they can use ganking to move into that area, and we'll have a lot of problems, right? Especially, yeah, because even if they let it live, then there's just a lot of problems with this situation. Okay, yeah. So this is where we kind of mess up. We we give the buff to this Clockwork Keeper, which we never should have done. What we should have done is send in our 4 might and 3 might unit, and if we need the buff, we'll use it later. But here I was getting a little angsty, just trying to get the game progressing. So I do get punished here, and I do get punished here. Yeah, and we. What's crazy is that opponent bullet times for 4, so now their runes are down to 3. They can very well win this last game with just this board here. This is a lot of might. This is 33 might that I need to deal with somehow, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good, let's tell you that. So right now we have 7 runes open. We cannot use Dead White Flame, and we're actually supposed to play Yi here. We end up being allowed to play this Yi out, which could have been devastating if opponent had not been so gracious. But this is a casual event, so luckily opponents. I was helping opponent out too earlier. Talking to them about triggers and helping them out with their triggers and stuff. So I think we. A lot of good faith on both sides. So we do have access to this dead blue or this white flame next turn. Opponent is at 6, but because they played Aspirant's Climb, we will be going to 9. And interestingly enough, I think the 7th point was scored just a single, just 1 conquer. So I would have drawn a card if it was not Climb, but I would be at 7 here. But that's neither here nor there. Opponents sitting on 20 to 13. They have options to move this around. They don't have too many options in terms of playing additional cards here. They're stuck at 3 currently. So we will be going into 12. We will have a handful of options next turn. So the opponent goes ahead and moves this MF to the Sanctum here. And opponent plays a stack deck also. They get 1. Okay. So opponent has 2 runes remaining and they pass the turn back to us. I'm not sure why they moved this MF here. I think they're trying to entice us. You could also say that they're trying to make it so that we can't just double conquer, because trying to double conquer on 25 is crazy difficult. But if they kept only MF there, it could pose a lot of problems. So yeah, we draw a what's this guy called? Aporo here. He's a little lacking. We're thinking about whether we need to take another turn to develop here. And this also can give us a shot at MF. What I identified in this situation is that actually a lot of our problems actually stem from this MF, right? The MF on the board. And specifically because they can give a unit ganking here, and MF can actually give another unit the ability to swing into the other board. Let's say, for example, what the opponent can do is take this Mind Splitter, move it to base, and they can move their MF to base as well, and then trigger the MF ability, and they ready this new Mind Splitter here, and then that will be ready for 7, and then the MF will give this Dead Bloom ganking, so that'll be 8. And if I just conquer this with my White Flame, the problem will become that I am getting attacked for 15 total there. So what I was trying to figure out was how I can, 1, get rid of this MF, and 2, if I can get this White Flame onto the board. And the reason why I need a White Flame defending and not a Master Yi is because we know of this Dead Bloom in their hand, but obviously they can't play it. So that might have been a consideration. I might have just been lost in the sauce again. It'll take them 2 Oh my god, 1 turn, 2 turns. It'll take 3 turns of rune development, but MF can go ahead and give 1 rune. It'll actually go ahead and take 2 turns of rune development to play to use Misfortune as a ramp to play this Dead Bloom that's we know is in their hand. So my problem was that Dead Bloom, but maybe I was thinking a little too deeply into it because the opponent is not able to play that from their hand currently. But this MF definitely is a problem because it allows them to swing in for basically the 2 largest units on this side. Basically give pseudo ganking is another gank. It's another ganking. And she herself can gank, so I mean technically it's 13 also, but that's another thing. So here I am just trying to take out the Misfortune just to make it more difficult to conquer from this side. Another thing we could have tried was send the Yi and the Dead Bloom there, but the problem with that is it also loses to bullet time. So at least if we lose to bullet time, we are not committing this Yi. One issue is that I might have been able to identify that the bullet time is at the bottom of the deck with the opponent's 2 Aurora procs. The problem is I just don't remember. We might have seen that at the bottom. But yeah, so actually the opponent goes ahead and plays a Gust, and we will get our Pookie back, but we will not be getting our first mate, and we will not be getting rid of this. So now we still need to watch out for 15 on the crackback on this side. One factor in a tournament setting is that you always, if the line might be obvious to you but might not be obvious to your opponent, and that's a minor thing, but I'm not sure that is really a factor in this specific situation. The opponent still has 25 might on this board and 8 might on this board. We will be able to run that over. So we go ahead and play the Pookie. We're going to put a counter, or excuse me, we're going to put a buff on the Yi, making it 7 might here. And we play a Sour Poro, and we pass the turn back to our opponent here. Oh, no, we can still play Dead Bloom. Let's see. Or we can still play White Flame. Let's take a look. Yeah, so we actually opt to play our White Flame here. You know, logic being that we might be able to get... we're gonna draw a card here, and that's another reason to play to take this battlefield, because that'll force, so opponent goes to 7. So we actually make it so that by taking this point here, we draw a card, and we also make it so that opponent does not double score and go to 8. So now that they are at 7, they need to score 2 more points, right? And they'll be able to score this and go to 8, and they could double hold, but the question is, can they double hold after losing material? And after, I mean, we didn't know we were drawing this Primal Strength, but can they double hold after losing maybe this Dead Bloom? So now we have access to this Primal Strength. So one line we can make here is we have 15, right? We can send this Primal Strength to make 22 might and send it to this board and win, and we'll get a candlelit trigger, a draw from deck, and a candlelit trigger, which would help next turn and not this turn. But then we can use this Pookie and this Poro to go for 5 to get exactly enough damage on this Aspirant, so that we would have a surviving Yi and a what's that called? A surviving Yi that lives through Dead Bloom, and they will not hold for win. So that would be the line that keeps us safe. That line would lose to bullet time, and the problem with that again is we weren't tracking the opponents. I don't remember exactly how many bullet times were in their Aurora triggers. So before swinging, we do have 19 might in the base, which is definitely not enough to. If we throw in this Pookie, that will be exactly enough to tie. So there aren't any options to preserve the primal strength here, we're gonna just go ahead and rip the primal strength here, using it on Master Yi here. So Master Yi will go to 14. Dead Bloom 8, 22. So we do win this combat. Opponent can bullet time for 2 to keep us from winning, which I think the opponent is supposed to do. I think they're supposed to do it if they have it, but opponent does not have that. And I think that should be a tell. Not a tell's not the right word, but that should be something to help us determine. So this is the top card here. So one of the questions that people had was that was discipline at the top of deck, because we were supposed to draw that discipline and then war camp, and then get the Candlelit Sanctum. But it does turn out that that discipline was on the top of deck here. So we don't know what this card is, but we will be able to get a draw here. So one thing we're doing is we're playing around Gust by playing this discipline here. We're playing the discipline to the Pookie. Yeah, and we rip the Defy, which pretty much guarantees the positive outcome of this line. We're gonna use 2 runes to play Pookie to make this 5 here, because this can't be gusted. This can be gusted, but it's not. The gust is not particularly relevant because we have a Defy here, and we end up winning this game. Yes, through so many issues too, and that is the review for this game. That was pretty close. Opponent showing us our hand. They had a possession, but possession is a little slow here. Sabotage, like we were talking about, sabotage, I don't think they should be playing. Misfortune should be playing that against Master Yi. I think it would be maximum 1 sabotage to guarantee a line. But even then, I don't even know if you need that. That's, let me know in the comments if any of you guys are Aurora experts and think that, know a little more than me about this sabotage decision. I know they were playing 3 though, so that's what I'm a little skeptical about. Challenge is great here, but yeah, and obviously Mobilize, I think just got it late. But yeah, these were the games. These were interesting for me, very challenging. There are a lot of decisions that we could have done better, and we are here to learn, as we said earlier. But yeah, this has been the review. We're gonna be doing more Master Yi content here, deep dive into the deck. I think that Classic Yi is in a very good place in the meta right now, but people are very hype about Aurora Yi and Ramp Yi because they are performing well in the China regionals. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about those 2 decks, and if you guys want more content about those decks or about Classic Yi, go ahead and subscribe. We will be posting more deep dives into those decks, and especially this deck. We'll probably be going card by card. I have to figure out exactly the structure of how I want to do that, but yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, and we will be finishing up this review. So thank you, everybody, for watching. If you made it this far, put in the word pizza in the comments if you made it this far, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.